Right, so we will start initially with the idea of cell states. If you remember, this is the other input that we have got together with h of t minus 1. C of t minus 1 is the second input. This is actually like a pipeline of memories. Okay, so you can see this flows from one cell to the next, and you can control what new memory should be added to this particular vector and what memories should be removed. So all that can be controlled using the forget valve very easily. So you can see that the gates, the cross signs that you see are the gates, and the gates are typically the ones which will control the changes in the memory vectors or output vectors. So LSTM typically has got 3 gates. Okay, and the gates uh, can be used to modify or control how much memory is retained at the end of each sequence computation. So for example, let's see the first one. The first gate is called the forget gate. You can see here. So the input to the forget gate is the previous hidden state input and the current input x of t. And the output of that is simply a sigmoid activation function is sigmoid activation function. So this passes through a sigmoid activation function and the output is taken as f of t. So you can see the representation is like this: wf into h of t minus 1 comma x of t plus b of f. This wf is an augmented matrix which has the weights for h of t minus 1 and the weights of x of t. So just for ease of computation, we have considered them together. Okay, so you can think of them as wfh into h of t minus 1 and w of fx into x of t, and summation of all of them plus b of f. All of that will pass through the activation function sigmoid, and then you get the output. This is an augmented matrix. That's why I'm trying to state this explicitly. Don't get confused. This is how the representation is in most of the text, so I am following the same notation. All right, so this has both the components of h of t minus 1 and of both weights for x of t also. And as you can see, the output of this sigmoid activation function will be a number between 0 and 1, because that's how sigmoid activation function gives you an output. So if the activation function gives you a value of 1, all of that information goes into the pipeline, this pipeline that you see here. And if the activation function gives you an output which is very close to 0, none of that information goes into the information pipeline. So now we go to the next gate. This is called the input gate. This is the second cross that you are seeing here. And this is actually done with the help of the 2 inputs that you have given. It has got 2 inputs. First one, which is again similar to what you have done in the previous case. So you have h of t minus 1, x of t, and then both pass through an activation function. You have another set of inputs which take it through a tanh activation function. Both of them go into the input gate. All right, so what we have here is we have another vector wi, which is again an augmented matrix for multiplying with h of t minus 1 and with x of t. And then you have another second function which is what you can say as the um, activation function being used as tanh again. And you have another matrix wc, which is again an augmented matrix which uh, deals with h of t minus 1 and x of t. So basically the inputs are the same, but the matrices will be different. So unfortunately the problem is that unlike RNNs, you end up with a lot many more number of weights that you have to learn. So it's slightly more time consuming when compared to uh, conventional RNNs. You can see you have a WI, you have a WC. In the previous case for f of t also you had to have another weight vector. So all these weight vectors have to be learned independently. You have to learn BI, BC, BH, everything. So it becomes slightly more complicated. So again, once these two outputs are available to us, we pass it through the next uh, gate, and then what you get is the new memory which is getting generated. So this is what happens. You have f of t into c of t minus 1 and I of t into c of t. So you can see here I of t into c of t forms this input which is coming from here, and then you have the previous instant what we have seen, the previous slides what we have seen, f of t into c of t minus 1 forms the output here, which comes here, it's added together, and you get the new memory which is c of t. This goes to the next cell. So the new memory valve or the forget valve, all that they do is simply multiply. Okay, that's simple multiplications, nothing much. So you have got these two outputs. So now we have created the new memory. We have also decided what needs to be forgotten. Now what we have to do is we have to find out what the output of the hidden state should be, which should be given to the next cell. So that is the next input. So we will do that with the help of a third gate, which is called the output gate or output valve. And you can see this is how it works. So same h of t minus 1 and x of t go in. They go to the sigmoid activation function. The output of that comes here. Then the new memory that is created is passed through a tanh activation function and multiplied to generate h of t. So now you can see the hidden state at time t is a function of the memory that has been coming from a very long time ago and has been adding and removing instance or parts of the memory, that along with the previous hidden state as well as the input. So you have all three components coming in here to create h of t. So h of t goes to the next cell also, and it goes to the output layer also. So same thing will happen. So this is the idea of output valve. Uh, Now we will go into a slight variation of LSTMs. So there are several variants of LSTMs which are currently available. You will also see different descriptions showing different kinds of architectures. You don't have to be confused by that. Uh, what we have seen so far is basically the plain vanilla type LSTM with no extra bells and whistles. Um, the second common type LSTM variant is something called the LSTM with peephole connections. All right, so what does this have? You have the advantage that you directly tap from the previous cell state for calculating everything. So you can see here we have additional connections which were not there previously. So the previous cell states also take part in all the calculations in the traditional LSTM. When that happens, you have LSTM with peephole connections. They are slightly better when compared to conventional LSTMs, but you do not find any conclusive proof that they are extremely superior when compared to traditional LSTM models. They do work well for certain applications, but there is no, as far as I know, a conclusive proof that peepholes always help improve the performance of LSTM models. Another variant of LSTM which is becoming very popular is that of gated recurrent units or GRUs. The advantage of GRUs is that it has lesser number of gates. So you can see it combines the forget and input gates into a single gate called the update gate. So it's slightly a simplified version of a typical LSTM. Performance wise, they are as good as LSTMs, but they are a little bit easier to implement, easier to code. So they are becoming very popular now. So you can see it's a lot more simpler than standard LSTM models. And you can find the details on this uh, page or paper. So that is GRUs. And these are the things that you need to remember. The diagrams that we have seen only illustrate the information flow from the input to the hidden layer. Please remember the output was h of t and not y of t or y cap of t. So please remember that h of t output is the hidden state layer's output at time instant t, which will go into the output layer, which will result in an output y cap of t or y of t. So please remember that h of t is not the output of the network, it is the output of the hidden layer of the network. Many people tend to get confused with that, so I thought I will mention this clearly. And again, typically the learning algorithm that you will use is backpropagation through time or truncated backpropagation through time, and optimization algorithm typically is ADAM. And I thought the next step would be logically to show what are the typical LSTM network architectures that you will find. All right, so typically the core components that you will find in an LSTM network are the sequence input layer and an LSTM layer. So these are the two layers that you will usually find, and this is how they're usually arranged. Okay, we will have a look at how LSTM is arranged for classification purposes. So what you do is you give an input sequence. There is an LSTM layer which learns the dependencies. Then you have a fully connected layer followed by a softmax layer for classification purposes. This can be used in cases such as, say, you want to classify sentiments, right? Like many to one kind of sequences, or you want to identify spam and non-spam messages. We will do one example of that in the next lecture. So the idea is that you input the sequence, the LSTM model learns the dependencies using the fully connected layer also helps in the learning. Softmax layer is used for identifying the classes, and then you have the output classes. You also have the uh, situation when you have applications such as video classification. So this is you input the sequence, you do the folding, you extract the features using the convolutional layers, you unfold, you flatten the network, pass it through the LSTM layers, one or many, and you get the output for videos. This is a slightly complicated version. We will have a look at this in detail in the next few classes. Sequence folding and sequence unfolding is something which is very easy using MATLAB, but can be slightly complex if you are using other tools such as maybe Python, or if you are trying to code it in C++ or things like that. So it's a lot more easier in MATLAB. That's why I've just circled it. It may appear to be a very simple process, but it's not that easy to do. We'll have a look at that in the upcoming sessions. The third application that you can have is application of LSTM for regression. For example, you want to predict what is the stock price for tomorrow based on the historical stock price information. So what you do is you give the input, you have the LSTM layer, the fully connected fully connected layer also. Together with LSTM, they learn the dependencies and they generate the model. And finally, you have the output, which is the estimated stock price value at the next instant of time. So this is one example where you will have LSTM being used for regression applications. So that's all for today. In the next video, we will have a detailed look at one example using MATLAB on how to classify messages into spam and non-spam. So that's all for today. And please do have a look at the references which are coming up here. So there's a lot of very good material available in all these materials that I have listed out, other than the textbooks that we have already discussed about. So please do have a look at as many sources as possible in this list, and I'm sure you will learn a lot more than what we have just discussed. Okay, so see you next time. Thank you.